There is a certain kind of moment that breaks people who have never been broken before. A calendar invite titled Quick Chat, a Slack message that says, "Come see me when you have a sec," a Zoom call at 9 a.m. with HR quietly added as the third participant. And in the span of about 4 minutes, a person who has never missed a deadline, never been late, never given anyone a reason to doubt them, is told it's over. Here's the strange part. Most people expect to feel angry or stressed or worried about money. What they don't expect is to feel like someone has died, to lie in bed that night with a hollow feeling in their chest that has nothing to do with their bank account, to find themselves crying in a parking lot, or feeling numb for 3 days straight, or lying awake at 2 a.m., replaying a 5-minute meeting like it's a crime scene. Most people think a layoff is a financial event, a logistics problem, update the resume, apply to some jobs, move on. But the truth is, your brain is not built to understand, "I lost my job." Your brain understands something much older, much more primitive, and much more dangerous. Today, we're going to decode the psychology of losing your job, why it hijacks your mind so completely, and how people actually recover from it. I'm Cytopsy. Let's get started. Here's the claim. This video is going to prove a layoff doesn't just cost you income. It triggers the exact same neurological alarm system that once meant, quite literally, life or death. And once you understand why your brain reacts this way, the pain stops feeling like weakness and starts feeling like something you can actually work with. To understand why a layoff hits this hard, we have to go back roughly 300,000 years, long before resumes, before money, before the concept of a career even existed. Psychology traces this reaction back to two overlapping causes. The first is ancient. For nearly all of human history, people didn't survive alone. They survived in small tribes, bands of maybe 100 to 150 people who shared fire and shared predators and rival groups. If you were cast out of that tribe, exiled, abandoned, left behind, there was no unemployment office. There was no savings account. There was just you, alone, against a world that had killed most things that tried to survive it solo. Researchers who study this call it social death. Being excluded from your group wasn't an inconvenience for early humans. It was, in the most literal sense, a death sentence. So the brain adapted. It built an alarm system whose entire job is to detect the earliest possible sign of exclusion and to make that detection feel unbearable immediately before you've even consciously understood what happened. That alarm doesn't run on logic. It runs on instinct. And it has not been updated since. The second cause is much more modern, but just as powerful. Somewhere in the last 100 years, especially in fast-moving, achievement-driven cultures, what do you do quietly became, who are you? Your job stopped being just a way to earn money and became your tribe, your identity, your daily structure, your sense of purpose, sometimes even your entire social circle. So when the job disappears, it's not one loss. It's 5 or 6 losses stacked on top of each other, all at once. Put those two causes together, and you get the real explanation. A layoff activates a 300,000-year-old survival alarm aimed at a modern identity that was never designed to absorb a hit like that. You are not weak for how hard this hits you. You are running very old software on very new hardware. Sign 1. The grief that arrives uninvited. You're 3 days out from the layoff. You're sitting at your kitchen table with your laptop open to a job board, and out of nowhere, your eyes fill with tears. Not because of anything on the screen, but because you just remembered your old coworker's laugh, or the mug that used to sit on your desk, or the commute you used to complain about and would now give anything to have back. This connects to something researchers now call job loss grief, and it activates the same emotional and neurological pathways as losing a person you love. Psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross mapped grief into 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and mental health professionals now apply that exact same framework to losing a career. Your brain isn't distinguishing between I lost my job and I lost someone. Loss is loss. The nervous system doesn't file it differently. The cost of not knowing this is that people judge themselves for overreacting to a job. They tell themselves to toughen up, get over it, stop being dramatic, and that self-judgment just adds a second wound on top of the first. Sign 2, the body reacting before the mind can catch up. It's the middle of the night. You are exhausted, genuinely, physically drained, but your brain is sprinting, racing heart, shallow breathing, a tight chest. You try to make a plan, update your resume, think clearly about next steps, and your mind simply will not cooperate. This is your amygdala, the brain's direct detector, interpreting the layoff as danger and signaling the hypothalamus to push your sympathetic nervous system into full alert. That's the same fight or flight cascade your ancestors got when a predator showed up at the edge of camp. Racing heart, restlessness, gaps in memory, and inability to focus, all classic stress response symptoms. The cost here is brutal irony. This is exactly the moment people need to think clearly, job search, finances, next steps, and it's exactly the moment their brain is least equipped to do it. You haven't lost your competence. Your alarm system is just drowning it out. Sign 3, the quiet, terrifying question, who am I without this? For years, when someone asked, so what do you do? The answer came instantly. Now, there's a pause, a flinch. Some people avoid the question at parties entirely, mumbling something vague because saying, I got laid off, feels like admitting something is fundamentally wrong with them. This happens because your job loss doesn't just remove income, it removes daily routine, professional identity, work relationships, and a sense of security, all in one motion. Psychologists studying this describe it as identity disruption. The loss shatters fundamental assumptions about who you are and what the world is supposed to give back to you in exchange for effort. The cost of this sign is isolation from yourself, a slow erosion of self-worth that has nothing to do with your actual skills or value and everything to do with how tightly your identity had fused with a title on a business card. Sign 4, pulling away from the exact people who could help. Calls go unanswered, group chats go quiet, invitations get declined with some vague excuse. It feels safer to disappear than to explain what happened over and over to people who might pity you, or worse, judge you. But this instinct works directly against your own recovery. Social bonding, connection, being seen, being supported, triggers oxytocin, which acts as a genuine neurological buffer against stress, calming the exact alarm systems that got activated by the layoff in the first place. Isolation, meanwhile, does the opposite. It amplifies fear and keeps the threat detection system stuck in the on position. The cost is a trap that tightens itself. The worse you feel, the more you withdraw, and the more you withdraw, the worse you feel, because the one thing your ancient brain most needs right now, proof that you still belong to a group, is the exact thing you're avoiding. Sign 5, and this is the one that ties every other sign together. Your brain genuinely cannot tell the difference between I lost my job and my tribe just left me for dead. There's a concept in evolutionary psychology called the Savanna Principle. The human brain has enormous difficulty processing situations that didn't exist in our ancestral environment. Your amygdala doesn't know what LinkedIn is. It doesn't know what a severance package is. It only knows one thing. The group has excluded you, and it responds exactly the way it would have 300,000 years ago. Total alarm, maximum urgency, prepare to survive alone. That's why the emotional reaction to a layoff so often feels wildly out of proportion to the logical facts of the situation. You have savings, you have skills, you'll probably find another role. None of that matters to the alarm system because the alarm system isn't doing math, it's doing survival. The cost of not knowing this is that people think something is wrong with them for feeling this intensely, when really their brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do, working perfectly, just aimed at the wrong century. So what can someone actually do with all of this? Here's the important thing to understand. You cannot logic your way out of a survival alarm. Telling yourself, it's just a job, calm down, doesn't work because the part of your brain that's reacting doesn't speak logic. It speaks safety. It speaks belonging. The goal isn't to force the feeling away. The goal is to give your ancient alarm system the one thing it's actually asking for, evidence that you are not, in fact, alone in the wilderness. First, name it as grief, not weakness. The moment you stop calling this overreacting and start calling it what it actually is, a legitimate grief response, the self-judgment loosens its grip. You give yourself permission to feel shock, anger, sadness without adding shame on top of it. Second, rebuild your tribe on purpose. Don't wait to feel better before reaching out. Reach out in order to feel better. Tell one trusted person what happened plainly without the performance of being fine. Every honest conversation is a small, direct signal to your nervous system. The group hasn't abandoned you. That signal, that oxytocin response, is one of the most effective things known to counteract acute stress. Third, separate your identity from your title. Not every question needs your job title as the answer. Not every version of you disappeared with that role. You built skills, relationships, and judgment that exist independently of any single company's org chart, and no layoff can take those back. Picture that ancestral tribe again, the one whose fire meant survival, whose circle meant safety. For a moment, imagine being pushed out of it, cold, alone, convinced this is the end. But here's what almost never gets said. Humans who were exiled from one fire didn't just lie down and disappear. They walked. They found new ground. They built a new fire, sometimes with new people, sometimes stronger and more chosen than the one they lost. That's the real shape of what's happening to you. The layoff isn't the end of your fire. It's the walk between two of them. Painful, disorienting, genuinely hard but not permanent, and not proof that something is broken in you. The same ancient wiring that made this hurt so much is the same wiring that's kept humans finding new fires, new tribes, and new ground for 300,000 years. You are not the exception to that pattern. You're living inside it. If any part of this felt uncomfortably familiar, the 3 a.m. racing mind, the identity collapse, the urge to disappear, you are not broken and you are not alone in feeling this. Which of these signs hit closest to home for you? Tell me in the comments. If this video helped you understand what you're going through, do one thing for me. Send it to someone you know who just went through a layoff. Sometimes the most helpful thing isn't advice. It's just knowing someone else understands why it hurts this much. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Saitopsy.